Octane has been announced to join the LA Thieves for the next season, which will be Vanguard, which will be in 2022. And for a man who's got so much hype around him, you'd think he'd been doing all right recently, right? Well, he has spent the last 2 years at the bottom end of the league with Seattle Surge. However, he's still considered to be one of the best main ARs in the league. And in this video, we're going to run through exactly why, as well as the impact that I think he can have at the Thieves. As I said, it hasn't been a great 2 years. And if we just want to narrow it down to Cold War, his Seattle Surge side went 56 and 85 in maps and 11 and 25 in series. So yes, only 11 wins and 25 losses over the entire season, and a lot of those wins as well will have come towards the back end of the season, where they did get some highlights, including beating FaZe. However, Sam himself has been very, very good. If you look at statistics, he's got a 1.09 in the hard point, a 1.13 in the S&D, and a 1.09 in the control, putting up some really good slaying figures for his side. In fact, in the S&D, he was the #1 AR when it came to kills per round, and the third best AR when it came to kill-death ratio. And considering his side were regularly getting battered, that's not bad at all. What makes it even more impressive is the fact that his teammates were often getting slaughtered. Gunless was the only player to go positive alongside Octane in the respawns, the SMGs all going negative, and then no one else was positive in the Search and Destroys on that Seattle Surge team over Cold War, showing just how much Octane really was running the show by himself and really putting up some figures. However, there's a regular question that we ask here, and very fairly: if you're putting up big figures but you're getting beaten a lot, are you stat padding? Well, the answer to that question is no, I don't think so. I think that he has been contributing. After all, he is one of the top ARs in the entire league when it comes to objective kills in control, hill time in the hard points, and he did fare well in S&D First Bloods, getting a double-digit S&D First Blood percentage, as well as going positive overall. I think it was 46 and 37, if I remember correctly, over the Cold War year, so not bad. And also, one thing that we have to mention, obviously we're going to be going into next year where it is on LAN, and how is Mr. Sam LaRue on LAN? Well, he dropped a 1.37 in Major 4 and a 1.1 plus in Major 5, including huge performances against FaZe and Optic. A lot of their games were against Paris and London, so whatever, but bigger performances as well against some of the best teams in the league. Shows you a fraction of why people still think that Octane has it. And if we open up the scatter graphs and show you every main AR across the 3 modes, you can see Octane plotted here in red, and he has got below average engagements, admittedly, in the hard point with a very high KD. He's got a high KD in the S&D, as we've already specified, with a good first blood percentage, and in control he has a high KD again, below average when it comes to those engagements. Now, quite often what I would do is sit here and say that a player that's getting a high KD but a lower engagement rate is either doing that because their teammates are so good, which we know isn't the case when it comes to Seattle, or they were stat padding a little. However, I do want to counter that in this specific scenario, because one of the problems that you have here is that Seattle played a disproportionate amount of their games against the lower end of the table. They didn't play the top end very much. They played a lot of your Parises, your Londons, your LA Gorillas, those games. And quite often, that is going to be countering your engagement rate if you are dominating, or, for example, just that lower intensity of play. And I do think that one of the things that Octane looks bad on here is that he has that high KD, but the below average engagements. His engagements aren't particularly low, they're just not high either. And I think overall, a lot of this can be averted, a lot of this worry around the situation can be averted by looking at the games that he played, especially on LAN against big opponents. So again, your Atlanta FaZe, Optic Chicago, and he put up some serious figures. And I just think that basically he's now got a team that's going to allow him to do that even more. Looking at the team as a whole, I think that this is fantastic for the Thieves. He's going to fill a gap that Slasher has left as that main AR. I think ever since Slasher left or took a break or was benched or whatever went on there, they've had a gap at main AR. Kenny's not a main, he's a second. He's a guy that loves to go and roam and damage and do things on the map. He doesn't want to necessarily play that discipline side, the power position side of things, and I think Octane fills that spot perfectly for them. Meanwhile, this will open up Kenny and allow him to get in nice and tight with the SMGs and play around with them and form that system that a lot of your higher teams have. Your Arcitys, for example, on FaZe. He's the disciplined guy. He will take the power positions and let the other guys just go up and tear things apart. And when I look at this side, I very much so think of that. I think as well that when it comes to attitudes and motivations and disciplines, I think this is going to be better. I think it's fair to say that Kenny and Slasher and co, the vibes weren't there. You'd often see them at the end of the games. They looked like they would want to be anywhere else except for playing professional Call of Duty. Kenny has already tweeted out how Octane's one of his best friends and he can't wait to play with him again. Cue announcement video of Kenny waking Octane up. And also, these boys have had a lot of success in the past, right? Kenny and Octane together on that 100 Thieves roster in Black Ops 4 was a recipe for success, and this is trying to buy back into that legend, right? They will have motivation behind them. The fan base will be very excited for this, and I think that all together, it's a very solid foundation to their Vanguard year. And when it comes to the rest of the side that has been announced, you've got Drazah and you've got Envoy. And I think here you've got a very hungry side. Kenny wants to go back to being royalty. Envoy is going to be on a revenge tour for being dropped by Optic. You've got Drazah, who has a lot to prove now. He's going to be on a starting roster for the first time at the start of a year. And finally, Octane, right? He's been at the doldrums for 2 years, absolutely down bad. And now is his opportunity to bounce back and remind everyone, hey, I'm one of the best ARs in the business, and I'm going to see it out right here. My predictions then for how the Thieves are going to do next year, and with Octane coming in, I think it just rounds them out very, very nicely. You've got a main AR, you've got a main sub, and then you've got two players that can flex either way. Kenny and Drazah can be ARs, or they can be SMGs, and I think that that is great because you can have different setups and systems depending on maps and modes, and that is very, very important because I think that it as well allows Envoy to fit into your system far better than he ever did in Chicago, where he was like this main SMG, but he doesn't really play that way, so it made it difficult for him and Scump to connect. I think that this roster look very, very good. I'm going to predict them to be a top 3 team. I'm not expecting championships, but think around maybe an Optic Chicago from last year, perhaps slightly better, put up more of a fight against the top end sides. Anyway, what do you think? Let me know if you think Octane will come in and do some serious business and where you think LA Thieves will be sitting come the end of Vanguard.